Captain Corelli's Mandolin by Louis De Bernières. Read by Robert Powell. Dr. Iannis had enjoyed a satisfactory day, in which none of his patients had died or got any worse. He had attended a surprisingly easy carving, lanced one abscess, extracted a molar, performed an unpleasant but spectacularly fruitful enema, and had produced a miracle by feat of medical prestidigitation. He chuckled to himself, for no doubt this miracle was already being touted as worthy of St. Gerasimos himself. He had gone to old man Stamatis' house, having been summoned to deal with an earache, and had found himself gazing down into an oral orifice more dank, belichened, and stalagmitic even than the Drogherati cave. He was aware that old man Stamatis had been deaf in that ear since childhood, and that it had been a constant source of pain, but was none the less surprised when, deep in that hairy recess, the tip of his matchstick seemed to encounter something hard and unyielding. Dr. Iannis tilted the old man's head and peered into the ear. There was something spherical within. He scraped its surface to remove the hard, brown, cankerous coating of wax, and beheld a pea. Dr. Iannis considered the problem. It was undoubtedly an obdurate and recalcitrant pea, and it was too tightly packed to lever it out. He straightened up and twirled his white moustache reflectively with one forefinger. "I have decided, upon further thought, that it would be better to fill his ear up with water and mollify the supererogatory occlusion. Kyria, you must keep this ear filled with warm water until I return this evening. Do not allow the patient to move. Keep him lying on his side with his ear full. Is that understood?" Dr. Iannis returned at 6 o'clock and hooked the softened pea successfully. He presented it to the couple for their inspection. Stamatis clapped his hand to the side of his head and exclaimed, "It's cold in there! My God, it's loud! I mean, everything is loud! My own voice is loud!" "Your deafness is cured," announced Dr. Iannis. "A very satisfactory operation, I think." Shortly afterwards he found himself walking home with a fat pullet under each arm, a shiny aubergine stuffed into each pocket of his jacket, and an ancient pea wrapped up in his handkerchief, to be added to his private medical museum. He was left with a whole evening in which to write his history of Cephalonia, as long as Pelagia had remembered to purchase some more oil for the lamps. The new history of Cephalonia was proving to be a problem. It seemed to be impossible to write it without the intrusion of his own feelings and prejudices. Objectivity seemed to be quite unattainable. It was not Olympian. He sat down and wrote, "Cephalonia is a factory that breeds babies for export. There are more Cephalonians abroad or at sea than there are at home. There is no indigenous industry that keeps families together. There is not enough arable land. There is an insufficiency of fish in the ocean. Our men go abroad and return here to die, and so we are an island of children, spinsters, priests, and the very old. The only good thing about it is that only the beautiful women find husbands amongst those men that are left, and so the pressure of natural selection has ensured that we have the most beautiful women in all of Greece, and perhaps in the whole region of the Mediterranean. The unhappy thing about this is that we have beautiful and spirited women married to the most grotesque and inappropriate husbands, who are good for nothing and never could be. And we have some sad and ugly women that nobody wants, who are born to be widows without ever having had a husband." The doctor refilled his pipe and read this through. He listened to Pelagia clattering outdoors in the yard. He read what he had written about beautiful women and remembered his wife, as lovely as her daughter had become, and dead from tuberculosis, despite everything he had been able to do. "This island betrays its own people in the mere act of existing," he wrote, and then he crumpled the sheet of paper and flung it into the corner of the room. He went out into the yard and relieved himself into the patch of mint. He nitrogenated the herbs in strict rotation, and tomorrow it would be the turn of the oregano.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?